am Ana Marrero with the Rector of the United Nations University and United Nations Under Secretary General Professor Tshilidzi Marwala, who visited the country to give a series of interviews and conference within the framework of the agenda of the World Agency on Biotechnology, Artificial Intelligence, and Climate Change. And now he's here in teleSUR explaining us these topics. Welcome.
No, thank you very much. I am glad to be in Venezuela. The United Nations University actually has a campus in Venezuela, our only campus in Latin America, BioLec, which stands for Biotechnology in Latin America and the Caribbean.
And now let's begin with the interview. So, Mr. Tshilidzi, it's not a very common name. So, what is the origin and what does it mean?
Well, I come from South Africa, and the last verse of the Bible in my language starts with my name, Tshilidzi.
Wow.
Tshilidzi means grace. So the last verse of the Bible actually says, "May the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ be with you." And in my language, it starts with, "Grace of our Lord be with you." So this is my name. It is a language called Venda.
Whoa, that's a very, very, very interesting meaning. So, and you are director of the United Nations University and Undersecretary of the United Nations too. So, can you talk about you and how do you reach such a position?
Well, I mean, obviously, you know, the United Nations University is the most important organization for fostering international cooperation to ensure that we have peace and security, to ensure that we have development, sustainable development, to ensure that we leave no one behind. So I used to be a rector of the University of Johannesburg. Okay. So when the opportunity came for me to take the issues that I have just talked about to the global level through the United Nations University, I took the opportunity. And of course, it is not really about the job. I always say this is not a job. This is a responsibility. Because the world cannot afford climate change. The world cannot afford to leave anyone behind. The world cannot afford wars. So it is absolutely very, very important that we create this world that is peaceful, that is sustainable, and to be able to do that, you need technology.
Yeah.
You need artificial intelligence, you need biotechnology, you need all sorts of technology to ensure that our people have food, to ensure that our people have energy, to ensure that our people have clean water, to ensure that our people have good education, to ensure that our people have clean water and sanitation, and to ensure that our people have jobs. And all these things require technology. It
is. And can you talk about us a bit about the university, as you are rector, and why we didn't know about it? Because it's kind of new to us.
Well, this university is not new. United Nations University was started in 1975. And 2 years before it started, the government of Venezuela committed to investing $10 million to the United Nations University. That will be 1973. Okay. I was only 2 years old. So the university is old. It is located in Japan. Yeah. That is where the headquarters are. That is where I am based. But it has many branches around the world. It has a branch that deals with health in Malaysia, that deals with information technology in China, that deals with economics in Helsinki, that deals with human and environmental security in Germany, in Bonn, and that deals with materials in Germany, in Dresden, that deals with electronic governance in Portugal, that deals with the economy of technology and innovation in the Netherlands, that deals with regional integration in Belgium, and that deals with natural resources in my own continent, the continent of Africa, in Ghana, the opposite side of where I come from. I come from South Africa. And then that deals with water in Canada, and that deals with taking all these things into policies and laws and regulations and advising member states, which is our Policy Institute in New York and Geneva. And just recently, we have created a new institute in Bologna that deals with artificial intelligence in Italy. So it is actually worldwide. But to answer your question, why have you not known about it? You have not known about it because what we did well, but there is a need to take what we have done to the public. And one of my three objectives is to ensure that the visibility of United Nations University is increased. And we increase this by doing more in all the countries. And by the way, there was one institute that I did not mention. That institute is called BioLec. Do you know where BioLec is located?
No.
In Venezuela.
Really?
Yes.
Whoa.
That is why I'm here. I am here.
Incredible.
I am here because we have an institute. I was in the office yesterday. Gustavo Fermin is actually our director here in Latin America.
Whoa.
BioLec stands for Biotechnology in Latin America and the Caribbean, and the headquarters are in Venezuela. So I have people who work here that I have to take care of, and I'm here to make sure that they have all the resources that they need in order to do a very important job, which is to advance biotechnology in Latin America and the Caribbean.
Well, that's incredible. That's incredible, and it's even more incredible that we didn't know about it, that the headquarters are in here in Venezuela. That's something important. That's something important for the country and for the United Nations working in here. Mm. And now, how can biotechnology contribute to achieve the SDGs?
Well, I mean, the SDGs stands for Sustainable Development Goals.
Okay.
And there are 17 of these goals. And I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm just going to highlight some of them. For example, goal 1 and 2 is about hunger and poverty. We need to eliminate hunger.
Yeah.
And how do we eliminate hunger? By having more foods. Now, how do we have more foods? By making sure that when we plant things, they grow and they produce whatever they're supposed to produce. By ensuring that when we tend animals, whether it is fish in our rivers, whether it is cows and goats, and I'm a farmer in South Africa, that those things actually are there in abundance, they are sustainable, and they renew themselves, you know. And all that, you need biotechnology. You need biotechnology to be able to have seeds that can be able to withstand some of the big issues that are facing our planet due to climate change. And of course, when you start talking about that, of course, the easiest part is fertilizers. The complicated part is bioengineering.
Yeah.
And of course, when you do bioengineering, you have to be careful because there might be some unintended consequences. That's an example. And if we do it well and we deploy it well, then we are going to have sustainable farms and we are going to have food insecurity. Now, let's talk about issues of health, good health and well-being, SDG 3.
Yeah.
Of course, you need medicines, and for you to be able to get medicines, you need to have good technological infrastructure.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about energy. SDGs 7. Now you can be able to have cars that run on biofuels, ethanol and so on and so forth. And of course, that will require biotechnology. Let's talk about water, clean water. Again, yesterday I was at IDEA looking at, and IDEA is at the same place as BioLec, where our institute is, looking at technologies based on algae to purify water.
Yeah.
Very, very important. And I can go on, climate change. Biotechnology is at the center of that to ensure that we deal with issues of climate change.
Yeah, and Professor, you as an expert of artificial intelligence, can you tell us more about it?
Well, artificial intelligence is basically making machines that think like human beings. And how do we do that? We do that by using mathematics and coding and data. You have data. It might be a data of people's faces, and on the other side is who this person is. This face is for John, this face is for Sarah, and you use that data to train a machine. And once it is trained, every time the camera looks at Sarah, he says, that is Sarah. You know, and this can be for access control at airports before people get into the planes, or it can be access control in the workplace. Whatever it is an important job.
Yeah.
Of course, at an advanced level, it can be a picture of an X-ray of a person's lung. And the output would not be who the person is, but it will be whether the person is in good health or not. And these infrastructures are being used in our hospitals, advanced hospitals. And of course, for us to be able to do that, you need big computers to be able to train these machines. You need infrastructure such as your cell phones to be able to operate some of these things, you know. And this is basically artificial intelligence. And now you can even use people's voices. So
Yeah.
instead of a picture, it can be somebody's voice. And based on the voice, the machine can actually be able to tell you who the person is. Of course, sometimes at an advanced level, you are able to listen to a voice in Spanish, and it is translated into English or into my language. And in the future, what you are going to have, we're going to have people with things, listening devices in their ears, and the words are going to come in Spanish, and then they are going to be translated into my language, Venda.
Yeah.
And then I will speak back in Venda, and when it comes to your ears, it will be translated into Spanish. Good system, but I don't really like such a system, because such a system can cause people to stop learning languages.
Yeah.
We should not stop learning languages. These systems must be used to improve people's lives, but it should not be to the extent that it puts our languages in danger and people not feeling the need to learn languages because the machines will do translation for them.
Yeah, that's right. That's really a really good point. And another question, it's an uncommon question. It's robots are also artificial intelligence.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely. I mean, robots are supposed to do the work that is done by human beings. But some of them are not intelligent. I will give you an example. Traffic light. It just does
Automatic.
red, and after 45 seconds, green. And after another 45 seconds, red, whatever the time frame they are, you know. That is a robot. In fact, in South Africa, we don't call it a traffic light. We call it a robot. It's a robot because it is supposed to do things that was done by a human being. And a long time ago, it was a human being who was directing the traffic.
Yeah.
Now it is a robot. You and I will believe that green and red is not intelligent.
No, because it's automatic.
It's automatic. And of course, you can improve that robot to make it automatic, intelligent. For example, you can say it has a camera that looks at the road, and if the traffic is higher on the other side, then on the other side, it is going to give more time for that traffic compared to this traffic. And if it is during the night and there are no cars coming from this side, it will always be green. Then it becomes intelligent. Not very intelligent, but intelligent. So you need to infuse artificial intelligence for it to be able to look at the road, estimate how many cars are on the road, decide how much time it is going to give for the cars to be able to pass.
Okay. And how can artificial intelligence be used to advance in the biotechnology?
Well, I mean, I think biotechnology is quite vast. We know about something called protein folding, which is essential, especially when we are trying to discover new drugs. And some of these problems have been done using artificial intelligence. Bioinformatics, the analysis of all this bio data that is gathered in our trees, characteristics of trees. Artificial intelligence can be able to organize them so that a person who wants to use them can easily be able to design new cures for diseases, for example. That is just one of the examples. But the examples are vast. I mean, if we are talking about gene editing, if we are talking about gene analysis, all those things requires computational power, and those computational power are actually simplified by artificial intelligence so that you can be able to reach solutions much quicker than you would do if you were using human beings.
Yeah. And also, how can the biotechnology be used against the climate change?
Well, I mean, climate change is a big deal. We all have to take responsibility for it. Yeah. There is no peace and security without climate change, with climate change. The temperatures today are higher than they have ever been, and we need to do something about it. Now, let's look at what can be done. And not just now, I'm going to first talk about artificial intelligence. What can we do in order to be able to deal with climate change? I think one example is solar panels that are able to point at the exact spot on the sun to capture as much solar radiation as possible, enabled by artificial intelligence. How do we make better biofuels so that we can be able to use that into our cars? I was in Brazil, and they are actually using biofuels in their cars. And what comes out of exhaust is not carbon monoxide, as it does when we use fossil fuel. It's actually water, so it's sustainable. And that biofuel comes from sugarcane. How can we use biotechnology to be able to cultivate better sugarcane so that we can be able to turn that into biofuels? How do we actually make that process as efficient as possible so that it can be used en masse and on scale? That is one of the examples of biotechnology to tackle the issue of climate change.
Okay, so let's take a very short break, but we'll be right back with Mr. Marwala in this interview. Welcome back to this special interview with Professor Tshilidzi Marwala. And let's continue. And what could the UN and the United Nations University do to contribute to fill the gap between the biotechnologically developed and poorly developed countries?
Well, I think one of the issues that we need to do is education. We need to bring high-level education to those spaces where it does not exist. And some of the things that we are doing in the continent of Africa and Latin America, the programs that BioLec here, our institute here in Venezuela is doing, fellowships where people can come and learn about biotechnological issues, and be able to take it back to their countries and teach many, many people so that they can be advanced and be able to deploy biotechnology in a much, much more sophisticated manner. The issue of access to researchers globally. We can be a facilitator of that to ensure that an academic who is based in the global south can have access to some of the most advanced knowledge in the subject and be able to take it back and use it to deal with issues of agricultural production and other essential things, health, to ensure to give good health to citizens. And also, the United Nations University is a platform that can be able to take complicated research into policies at the global level and be able to support the people in member states with information that will enable them to be able to do regulations that will ensure that the people are safe from biotechnology, but also can be able to exploit the opportunities that biotechnology offers, such as the use of biotechnology to increase food production and deal with the problem of hunger and poverty, for example. So the examples are quite numerous, and as the United Nations University, we are ready to help people in the developing South so that they can be able to advance their knowledge. Our institute here in Venezuela is actually going to be our fulcrum to support people in the rest of Latin America so that they can be able to tap into the resources that are available at the United Nations University.
Cool. And how pertinent is a UN-based university for the Global South?
Well, I think the United Nations University is for both the Global South and the Global North. I think that is very, very important. What the United Nations University must do is to become a bridge that links institutions in the Global South to the Global North. We should be able to put students and researchers from the Global South and the Global North in the same classrooms so that they can converse. Why is that important? This is important because the problems that we face today cannot only be solved by the Global North, and they cannot only be solved by the Global South. The problems of climate change are not problems that can be sectorially solved. They are the problems that have to be globally solved. And of course, in the last 2 years, we had an example of COVID-19.
Yeah.
You could not be able to isolate a country and say, it is their problem. It is not my problem. Why? Because the pandemic knew no geographical boundary.
Yeah, the pandemic was a global problem.
Absolutely.
Everyone's problem.
Global problems require especially global solutions.
Yeah. So, thank you, Mr. Marwala, for all your explanations and being here with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Gracias.
Bye.